Hey Cam, congratulations and thanks for taking the time for us today. We're going to start with Ed and then go to Brooks.
All right.
Hey, hey, Cam, congratulations. Just how does it feel to have this deal in place for you personally? And just how did it all come about? How did this whole process unfold?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it feels kind of surreal. I feel like, I've been playing football for as long as I can remember and, getting to a point like this. I mean, this is life changing. It's just crazy. I feel like, I've been working at it for a while. I mean, since I got drafted here, I guess I've been working towards this point. And now that I'm finally here, I'm just, so thrilled that I got lucky enough to get drafted here. And being in the best spot I possibly could be, and now getting this deal done. I mean, I feel secure that I'm going to be here for a long time, and yeah, it's wild to think that I'm finally here. It's crazy.
We'll go to Brooks and then Jeff McLean.
Hey Cam, congrats. Whenever you think about the year 2029, I mean, that's a long time. You mentioned being a part of this organization. Just what do you consider about the juncture at this point? And when you think of 2029, what opens up your mind about all of that contains?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of worried about this year, and I think that's kind of my approach that I've always had. Since I got here, it's like what can I do today, and what can I do to get better, and I think it's done me well, and not to look too far in the future, but just know that I'm on this team and I have security for the years ahead, and I feel safe about that, so I don't have to worry about 2029 or the years after. I can just worry about today and getting better and doing my thing and what I love to do.
We'll go to Jeff McLean and then Bob Brookover.
Cam, what did the back surgery entail, and how do you feel now? And are you fully recovered?
Yeah, it's still a process. Whenever you get surgery, it takes a little bit to get through the rehab process and get back to it. So still going through that, but man, I feel like a new man. I feel so much better going through the playoffs and dealing with that pain. I'm sure a lot of people have dealt with that before, and it's not fun. But when you're going through the playoffs, and I'm not really concerned about me. I'm kind of concerned about what I can do to help the team and do everything I can and to win. When you're playing for a Super Bowl, that's going to last forever. Back pain's going to last however long it wants to last, but I'm going to be a Super Bowl champ forever, and I get to be with the Eagles for a long time, and I'm looking forward to making a full recovery. Not really worried about if it's going to last through the season. I feel really confident with where I'm at right now and where it's going to be, and yeah, I just feel, man, I feel so much better than where it was. That's for sure.
We'll go to Brookover and then Zach.
Yeah, uh, two things, Cam. Did they assure you that it wouldn't be reoccurring? And the second part is kind of related. The move to get rid of the tush push. How do you view that? You guys have had a ton of success for it. Jason used to talk about what he would say before they ran that play, that it was obviously a difficult play for a center in terms of what you have to go through. Would you welcome the banishment of the tush push?
So first question, yeah, I mean, I'll make a full recovery. I feel very confident about that, and I'm not gonna be worried about it. It's gonna be nice to have this problem in my past, but football is football. It's you're gonna get injured. New things pop up. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. So you can't really worry about that. Beyond the tush push, I just operate. I'm just a football player here, and if they ban it, they ban it. It's out of my control. I feel like it's a fun play for us to run, and we run it really well. And it'd be a shame if they take it out of our hands, but that's not something I need to be concerned with.
We'll go to Zach and then Rube.
Hey Cam, congratulations. The nature of the questions you're getting this year are a lot different than the nature of the questions that you got last year. I guess what perspective do you have on this past year, proving yourself as top center, making the Pro Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, and now getting this type of deal?
Just what I'm doing is working. Put your head down and work, and things are gonna pan out the way they pan out. I feel like it's always you worry about what you can do today and how you can get better, and it's a long season, and it's a thing that Sirianni always talks about. You're you're working all year long to climb the mountain, and you never really want to look at the top of the mountain. You don't want to look where you've been. You just want to look where you're at right now and climb little by little and do your thing. That's a big message we get every day, and it resonates with me. So it's a long season, from getting questions, trying to answer them, and I just can't worry about outsiders' perspective or what people are thinking about me. I just got to worry about what I can control and what I can do to make my O-line coach Jeff Stoutland happy. I'm worried about him not getting on me, and that's just what I got to worry about.
We'll go to Rube and then Dave Z.
Hey, Cam, congratulations on the contract. You're signed through 29. Jordan and Landon are signed through 28. Lane signed through 27. How big is it for the whole group that you guys are going to be together? And how much better do you feel like you guys can get as a unit being together at least another 3 years?
I think we can get so much better together. It's just, since I got here, I feel like the culture was just so present right away when I got here. Seeing Kelsey, Lane, Mulata, Isaac, and just watching them guys work, you could tell there's immediate culture in that O-line room and how they operated. Everything is full speed, everything's 100%, and there's a standard there. And I'm just so blessed to be here and be part of that. And now I get that contract extension, and I get to be a part of one of the leaders in that room, and I get to put my best foot forward and work and do everything I can to be a leader for the guys coming in and being that role model that I had when I came in. And I just feel like everybody in that room, depending if you're an old guy, a young guy, or somebody coming in, I feel like you just get better. It's just an environment, that culture that's been built there for so long through Stout. It's very infectious, and I can't wait to keep working with those guys and passing that on down.
We'll go to Dave and then end with Olivia unless we have any other questions.
Hey Cam, congrats. Last year, Landon told us his big purchase was the mower when he got paid. Do you have anything in mind for yourself?
I haven't given it too much thought. I feel like I fly a lot, so I might look into this thing called like TSA pre-check. I feel like that sounds like it's a good idea. I'm kind of tired of waiting in lines. I think I could afford that, so I don't know. I think I'm going to look into TSA pre-check next and see if I can get that done.
We'll go to Olivia and then Bob Brookover.
Hey, Cam, with 2 years of starting experience under your belt, one of them at center, where do you hope to grow in your game, both on the field and then also in terms of your leadership role off the field?
Yeah, kind of what I was talking about in that room. It's just doing the I can to move forward that room and continue that, the standard. And the standard's been set so high, and to, everybody coming in there, you gotta do everything you can to keep it where it's at, and just see if you can keep moving it forward and getting it higher. I'm just gonna work on everything I can, in the weight room and the training room and just in the film room, and try to become a little more all around, and just be the most dependable person I can be. And I just feel confident that the Eagles are so confident in me, giving me this extension, and I can't wait to be here longer. Keep building the trust and friendship that I got with the rest of the guys on the team.
We'll go to Brookover and then we'll finish with Zach.
Hey Cam, do you, getting back to the tush push for one second, do you buy one of the big arguments that going on is that there's the risk injury or injury risk involved? Do you buy that argument, and have you listened to some of the arguments that are out there, and do you buy any of them?
I don't know. I feel like everybody's going to make an argument, and you could come up with some data that proves it or doesn't prove it. I don't know. I'm just running the play. I never got injured on the play. I don't know who has, and you can get injured on any play. You can get injured walking down the stairs. We're not going to outlaw some stairs, but it is what it is. And if they outlaw it, weirder stuff has happened in the NFL in years past.
And one other thing, what was the height of your pain last year when you were dealing with that? I mean, how bad was it?
It sucked. it sucked just getting through it. I think, the worst was leading up to that NFC Championship game. But it feels good knowing I can look back on that and just be like, it was all worth it, thinking, how am I going to get through this and what's going to happen. But, when you're playing for a team, you're going to lay everything on the line from, everybody's dealing with stuff. Landon was dealing with stuff, and everybody on the team has something going on. And, you never want to make your deal bigger than anybody else's. And it's just, it is what it is. You're a football player. This is what we sign up for. And, that's what it takes. You get a Super Bowl ring, you're going to have that to show for it the rest of your life. And, I don't care what I had to go through to get to a certain point. All I know is everything was worth it.
Thanks.
We'll finish here with Zach.
Hey Cam, as you know, it's the Eagles' strategy to identify their core players and sign them as quickly as they can. I'm always curious your guys' perspective as far as why now, when in theory you have another strong year, your value's higher, but there's obviously risk. What's kind of the thought process for a player like you to sign the deal as quickly as you do?
I think it's the same thing that the Eagles think. The Eagles love me, and I love the Eagles. Why wait another year when we can get this done? I think it's just as simple as that. And I love it here, and I want to stay here, and they want me to stay here. So I'm just glad we got it inked.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cam. We appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.